Welcome to Our Future is Kind, a podcast exploring how we build the future we want to live in, one kind act at a time. I'm your host, Michael G. Neese, president of Our Future is Kind, and your trusted companion as we search out kindness strategies we can use in our everyday lives. Together, as we chase the idea of building a kinder future, we will interview experts in kindness, team building, human motivation, corporate culture building, relationships, plus politicians, artists, and those with a vision for a healthy and kind future, one we all want to live in and deserve to enjoy together. In addition to interviews, we will consider positive depictions of humanity's future in art, literature, the movies, and media. And we will issue kindness challenges each week, give an update about Our Future is Kind, the company, and what it's doing to stay true to its mission. So, let's dive in. Before we start this episode, just a quick reminder about the Human Summit. It's a movement focused on connection over division, kindness over judgment, and empathy over apathy. If you want to learn more, check out www.thehumansummit.com/home. As one of the co-founders of this Human Summit, I'm so excited to tell you just a little bit about it. Co-founder Kevin Hunting and I have put this together with an amazing board of advisors, and we can't wait to share it with you and the rest of the world. Check it out now and reach out to us if you have any questions. Julie Goldberg is an energy healer and trauma-informed coach, specializing in inner child healing, embodiment, and soul-level transformation. Her work is deeply rooted in the lineage of the modern mystery school, where she's trained in ancient healing modalities designed to ignite the light within and reconnect you to your highest purpose. Julie Goldberg, welcome to Our Future is Kind.
Thank you, Michael Neese. It's so good to be here with you.
I'm glad to have you. Yeah, this is a long time coming, and so I'm very excited about the conversation we're just about to have.
Me too. Yeah, I've been very excited about this since I signed up for it, basically.
Awesome. Terrific. So I gave an introduction of you, but what I want you to do is tell our audience what makes you, you.
Ooh, what makes you, you?
Yeah.
What an amazing question, Michael Neese.
I try.
Oh, man.
This is my job, you know.
Yeah, this makes me think about some of my studies in the mystery school. We're always asking, who am I? Constantly. Like, you could ask that question every day, multiple times a day, and get slightly different answers. Who am I? Who am I? Who am I? Mm-hmm. And I think at this stage, the first thing that I felt a feeling here in my chest. And the first thing that came up was what makes me me is my heart. Mm. And the way that I express my heart, which is through love and passion. So self-love, love of other people, love of activities, love of transformation, art, all the things that I love and am passionate about and all the people, I think is a big piece of what makes me me, and that kind of fire within that drives me. I could answer that, thousands of ways, but how's that one?
I love it. Yeah. The connections to others. Tell me a little bit about that, because I have spent a bit of time with you. I've been in your presence, and you do have this warmth, this energy to you. But tell me, what does it mean for you to be in a room filled with people that you've either known for a long time or you've just met?
Yeah. So many things. I think that I have a really strong sense of us as a collective whole, us being human beings. And so the more I heal within myself and love myself, the more I have to offer that to everybody else. And I think a lot of people don't love that concept because they haven't fully loved themselves yet. And I don't know if we'll ever fully love ourselves during our physical lifetimes. But it's like the more of that I get within me, the more I have to share, because you cannot give what you do not have. And so I think when I walk into a room of people, whether I know them or don't know them, I am looking for the light in them, and I'm looking for the unique spark of goodness in each one of them. And I'm trying to find what I can esteem about them. So even if there might be some things, like maybe they're a little rough around the edges or something, it's like, what good can I see inside of this person? whether it's like one of my parents or someone I've never met in my whole life. It's like, okay, like where is the joy, the love, and the light inside of this person, and how can I bring that out more?
I think you and I approach people very differently. No, not really. I think it's identical, actually.
I know, I was going to say, what are you talking about? I feel like you do that too.
No, it's true. When I meet almost anyone, I feel like I fall just a little bit in love with that person.
Yeah, that's a good way of describing it. I have the same thing.
Yeah, it's this drive to see what's the best part of that person or what's showing up for them in that moment, and to be there with them and to value and treasure them.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think when you can bring that energy of like you are valuable to me and in general, people feel that. They can sense that, and it can wake something up in them.
Yeah. So, do you have a definition of kindness? Because it sounds like you're approaching people with deep kindness inside of you. How do you think of kindness?
Yeah, so I wrote this down before we talked, but kindness is action rooted in love and compassion, is what I wrote. And so it's how do we act from a place of love and compassion, which can mean saying no, setting boundaries, which can mean saying yes in the right situations. And I was thinking a lot about the difference between kindness and niceness and how they're not the same thing.
Right.
Because kindness has to also be rooted in truth for it to be real. I think a lot of niceties and niceness is rooted in politeness and social norms and untruths, actually. And people crossing boundaries and martyrdom and codependency. And kindness is not codependency. It's not martyrdom. It's not lies. It is the truth of love in action.
I feel the same way. Kindness has a truth to it. There have been many times when people have said, kindness is weak and it's for people who just, they let people steamroll over them. Mm-hmm. Tell me what your thought is about that.
I think that that's more niceness, actually, especially when niceness is coming from our societal programming and not actually from inside. But kindness could be a strong no. It could be a strong boundary. I think good parenting has a lot of kind boundaries and kind no's, and self-parenting. But it could be standing your ground. Let's say someone is just being super rude and they're cursing at you. You could say like, no, I'm not okay with being treated that way. Please do not speak to me that way. That's kind, but it's not weak.
Not at all. I mean, it takes an awful lot of bravery to stand up to somebody who is yelling at you in the moment, for sure.
Right, and it might even be, I will leave your house if you continue speaking to me that way.
Have you ever had to do that? Have you ever had to dismiss yourself and say, like, I'm just going to remove myself from the situation?
Well, yes.
Yeah.
But usually what I find is if someone is starting to get off their own center in that way, and you hold your ground and stay in your center and name it, they'll be like, oh, wow, I'm so sorry. Like, I'm feeling really triggered. Or, oh, I'm so sorry. I didn't realize I was talking so loudly. And I think that's the power in holding your values. And if you value kindness and you value compassion, if someone starts to, because I don't believe anybody is really, truly like that inside. But if somebody starts to lose themselves in a moment, to be like, hey, I'm holding the standard of kindness, let's say, and saying like, you know, let's say it's a friendship or a romantic relationship or a family relationship. Like in this relationship, we don't curse at each other. And I'm going to hold that line. And that person will usually go, oh yeah, you know what? You're right. Like we don't curse at each other. You're right. I'm sorry.
What do you think pulls us off of that center? Because I have encountered people, I mean, I'm sure you have too, and everybody listening in, we've all encountered somebody who's just, they're mad and they want to prove a point, or they want to be punitive in how they're interacting with you to show you something. What do you think pulls us off center?
Well, I think there's a lot there in what you just said that could potentially, I think a lot of people are stuck in their programming. So let's say the punitive one, like that's probably coming from when they were a kid and they're just running an unconscious program of like when someone, I don't know, triggers me for some reason, I punish them. And they're not even conscious of that half the time. And even if they are somewhat conscious of it, they don't really often understand what it is that they're doing on a deep level. So I think a lot of times people are not conscious of what those behaviors, the impact that they have and what it is exactly that they're doing in relation to someone else. And the truth of the matter is, from coaching, I can tell you that usually if someone's doing that, they're really doing it to themselves all day.
I'm sure.
Like if they're punitive when they get mad at you, every time they get mad at themselves, they probably are also saying some pretty horrible stuff inside. And that brings me a lot of compassion and empathy. Again, it doesn't bring me tolerance. I might be intolerant of their behavior and say no and like stand up and really say no to their behavior. But I can be compassionate and empathetic that like if they're doing that outside, they're doing it inside. And how sad.
Right. Yeah. The people who are angriest at us are typically the ones who have to go home with themselves, and you wonder what that's like.
And all night, 24/7.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. So
and I think
yeah.
Oh, I was just gonna add a little bit there that sometimes not everyone is gonna respond this way, like in a positive way, but sometimes a little pattern interrupt can make huge shifts in a person. Like if someone is yelling and you hold your ground, like I said, and you stay calm and you say, "How's your day today? Did you have a bad day?" Sometimes people will they'll cry or they'll just be shocked or they'll be like, "What? Yeah, I really did have a bad day."
Yeah, I found that labeling is sometimes really helpful. Wow, you seem a little upset. Gosh, if I were doing your job right now, I'd be really exhausted. How are you holding it all together?
If you extend just an inch of empathy, sometimes that's all it takes to bridge the gap.
Yeah. So I am really curious because I think all of our audience is as well. What is this work that you do? Because it sounds like you're very well equipped to help people get recentered and to find themselves a little bit better. And you mentioned finding empathy and compassion for other people. Tell us about your work. How do you help other people?
Yeah, I would love to talk about that. I'm going to give you just a little background, just like so you have a sense. But I've been working with people my whole career. I started teaching Pilates when I was 22 or 23. And that was my first kind of modality. And I've just learned a whole bunch of different modalities since then. So I was a personal trainer that came after Pilates. So I did those kind of together. And then I started studying myofascial release, which is connective tissue work and helping people restructure physical things in their body. But it was through that work, through working with the fascia, that I started to really sense energy. And I became interested in like, what is energy? Because I wasn't raised in a super like woo-woo energy. I was raised by a doctor. My mom was a little that way, but like I was raised in a very kind of practical brained way. So, but I started to feel this, like I called it flowing the white light. And I now know that that's Reiki, but I didn't know what Reiki was. I just knew that I was flowing the white light. And when I flow the white light, it helps people. They feel better. Things release in their body. They feel happier afterwards. So that sparked some interest in the whole world of energy and how do I remember when I was doing that work, I had this feeling inside and it was almost like I heard an internal voice that said, you have to find something that helps people heal at a soul level. And I'm 23 and I'm like, what does that mean? I have to find something that helps people heal at a soul level. Okay. But I just kind of took that and remembered it. And then I went through my mid-20s and I mostly did the work I just described, like the more physical work. And then I got into emotional intelligence training and started to really want to learn about human emotions. And I did Reiki certification and that was helpful. And then I found the Modern Mystery School. And when I started to learn more about that, I got initiated, life activated first, which we've done together. It's really an honor to life activate you.
It was wonderful.
Yeah, I would love to hear your experience about that later. But life activated, and then I was initiated into the lineage, and then I started to do some of the healings and learn more about it. I took Universal Kabbalah, and I had this, again, heart feeling of like, this is a thing that heals people on a soul level. It's healing me on a soul level. I'm starting to make friends at this point. It's healing my friends on a soul level. Like I'm just watching it happen around me. And then I started to want to get trained in those modalities to help other people because I just saw Like where I was getting inches with people, these practitioners were getting miles, like miles to the inch. And so I started studying it, and I've been studying it. I mean, there's over 100 healings in the school, so I've studied a few of them, in comparison to what there is. But yeah, and I've started to get miles with people in terms of their growth, their healing. I also coached relationships for a little while in there, and I did some work in Tantra. And I learned through it's like Neo Tantra, which is a more new Tantra than like ancient yogic Tantra. And coaching relationships, and I learned a lot about communication through that. And then I've kind of shifted into inner child healing coaching, which is more about relationship to self, and how do we talk to ourselves kindly, reparent ourselves, undo some of that programming that's been implanted in there through whatever childhood, teenage years, even early 20s that we've had. So I found that my biggest growth was when I focused on my relationships with my relationship with myself, my relationships with others got better. So that's kind of where I geared my coaching. So I do those things in conjunction now. I do inner child healing coaching, and I do energy healing, and I find that they work really well together. Yeah. So that's what I'm focused on now. I still do some fascial work, and sometimes people need that too along the way, because we have our physical bodies, we have our spiritual selves, as above, so below. Sometimes you got to work on one, the other, both.
When you say the fascial work, I imagine that you are grabbing people and pulling them like putty and kind of stretching them out. What does the fascial work involve?
Yeah, so I'm not a massage therapist, but a session could sort of look like what you might think is massage, but it's not. So it's a lot of longer holds. So it could be holding someone's body in a certain position, allowing it to release itself. Because truly all healing is self-healing. I'm just holding containers for people. So myofascial release is truly that way. There are some bodywork modalities that are more like, I'm going to do the thing to you. And I do a little bit of that, but mostly it's like I actually do, instead of what you're saying with the stretching like this, it's called a cross-hand release is one thing that I might do. So I put my hands like this on someone, and then I kind of stretch like this, and then I'll hold, and I let their body release on their time. And I might hold for 5 minutes sometimes. Wow. And give the tissue will go release more, release a little more on its own time. And it can make really big structural changes for people.
Do you find that if a client shows up and they are fairly closed off, or if they are really willing to be very vulnerable, and I mean, like, does it make a difference how somebody shows up in your presence for this work?
Depends which part of it. The mystery school healings work regardless of whether people believe them. So sometimes I have people say to me, like, I don't actually think that's going to work. And I'm like, that's okay. You don't have to believe it. Can you just sit there for an hour and then we'll see? Okay. Like experiencing it and then see what you think. Right. After you sit with it for a while. But yeah, those work regardless of whether the person believes it. I think when someone is really closed off, it's hard to do inner child healing work because they have to be willing to connect to vulnerable parts of themselves and go to vulnerable places. So that one can be challenging, but I even view that, and it's kind of like how we've been talking about viewing people in general. I view that as an inner child, probably, how do I explain it? Like wounding, like injury, if someone is closed off. So I'll start there, and I'll gently, if someone really wants the work but they're closed off, I will start to ask them some questions about that. Like, what is keeping you from going deeper into your heart? And just see what they say. Like, what do you think is this blockage? And then I be quiet and I let them talk. And that tends to help people. And then they feel safer because I'm not just like, tell me your worst trauma or something like that. I'm just like, hey, like, where are you at? And can we take a step today?
Well, it's very interesting. An awful lot of what this program is about, Our Future is Kind. It's focused on kindness toward others. An awful lot of what you were talking about is kindness toward self and self-relationship and trying to understand your history, trying to understand how you treat yourself on a daily basis. Yes. Talk to me about that. I mean, if you and I meet on the street, we don't know each other, and we want to show kindness to each other, you've already said it's really hard to do unless you've already got a good relationship with yourself. What do you mean by that?
I think that anybody, if they choose, can smile and wave and say, have a great day. Like, that's just a choice that anybody can make, even if they're really struggling with themselves. But I do think that as you go on in relating to someone, if you have unresolved, let's say, self-hate, meanness towards self, it's going to come out because it's in there, right?
Yeah.
So eventually, if I have that, it's going to come out at you. And I think that's what part of what people mean when they say relationships are our mirrors. I'm starting to actually get that. It took me a long time. But it's like, if I snap at you, where am I lacking patience inside of me?
Right. Yeah, no, I love this. Let's talk a little bit about the life activation.
Okay, yeah, I would love to hear
Yeah.
your experience since you've been sitting with it now for a couple weeks.
Yeah, so just to let our audience in on this, I went to Julie's studio and had what is called a life activation. And from the layperson's perspective, you were raised in a sciencey kind of household with the idea that all of this kind of stuff was woo-woo, right? Like not reliable. There's no evidence for it, that kind of thing. I was raised, yeah.
I was going to say I had half that, but my mom did burn incense in the 90s. So I had
Okay.
the door was cracked open.
Okay.
A crack.
Okay. Well, I was raised in a household by 2 PhD scientists.
Okay.
So, I mean, they're very, very kind people. And there's also this perspective of if it can't be grasped, if there's no way, if there are no data that are being collected, then how do you really know? How can you really be sure? So I showed up, and essentially, I mean, it starts with a discussion of what's about to happen and what the goals are, and then for me, it was just this sense of I'm heading into a new chapter in my life. I wanted to have some way of awakening to the possibilities, to opportunities, to know myself better, to not be too wedded to particular outcomes and all of that. And it felt like this was the exact right thing to come do. And so I stood in the room and sat in the room, and Julie, essentially, this is a layperson's explanation. You can correct where I get it wrong.
Okay.
But it felt like you were playing in my energy field, like you were around me in different spaces, that you were reaching into my energy and trying to draw things out, open things up. I mostly had my eyes closed, but at different times, you were, in front of me near my head, you were behind me with your hand on my shoulder while I sat. And for me, what I felt was just this sort of vibrational, quivering, glowing warmth, this sense of joy, this sense of, I mean, there was a sense of connection to you, but there was also this sense of connection to just something higher, something different, something else out there. And so all of the scientists who are sitting, listening in on this, you may be rolling your eyes, but for me, it felt like there was some sort of deeper connection. And so here I am a couple of weeks later, and I feel like there are many moments when I could have crumbled. My life is just changing in a lot of different ways right now, and trying to, be true and actually head in the right direction and bring the people into my orbit that I really, really want to have with me on my new journey. That's been super, super important. And it's felt a whole lot easier to do all of these things. So at moments where I would have normally maybe crumbled or maybe would have been self-doubting, I feel like there's been a lot more, nope, I'm going to get through this, and there is something else out there that's waiting for me. So that's been my experience. Tell me what I didn't describe correctly, though.
Well, first of all, it's such a joy to hear you talk about your experience. So thank you for sharing that. And I'm so glad that you're able to experience and feel all of that. It reminds me of my life activation, actually, if you don't mind me talking about that for a
Please,
second.
yeah, tell me.
I also had my life activation during a time of big upheaval and change and uncertainty, which was on March 13th of 2020
Hmm.
was the day I was life activated.
Wow.
And 2 days later, at that time I was doing Tantra and myofascial release, so my entire practice was in person. I had no online clients and no way to see clients online.
Wow.
So my entire practice had to shut down, and I got in the car 2 days later to go to my mom's for an indefinite amount of time, and nobody knew what was happening, and there's no food in the grocery store. And I remember I went to Trader Joe's, and it was
Very quickly, just for those who may have been unconscious during this period in March of 2020, please remember this was when COVID hit. So,
the very beginning of the pandemic. I got life activated right before the world shut down.
right. Okay.
The
Sorry.
world was in the process of shutting down when I got life activated.
Right.
And I just drove to my mom's. I went to this park beforehand, and then I drove to my mom's, and I just thought, I'm going to be okay. It's going to be okay. I don't know what's going to happen, but I'm going to be fine, and we're going to be fine.
Amazing.
And I just took that into the pandemic, and I started an online studio. I had no idea what I was doing. All of my friends weren't working because I have a lot of friends in health and wellness and who facilitate workshops and all this stuff. So I had all of those people lead online workshops, like yoga and Ayurveda and emotional release, which was really helpful for people at that time. And I ran this online studio for 5 months. And I got all my friends to lead amazing workshops, and I had people enroll from all over the world. And I even taught Pilates on there. It was fun. Then I got initiated during the pandemic, which was nuts. I mean, one of the things I most respected about the mystery school is they honored the laws of masking and separation, whatever, but they just kept going. They didn't stop. And I really came into the school at that time, and I was impressed. And people weren't scared. They weren't freaking out. They were just like, okay, we step forward.
Yeah.
We step forward again.
Amazing.
And so, yeah, when I got my life activation, everybody was, freaking out for good reason, understandable, but I wasn't.
It's almost like for me, it was almost like I was making a commitment to myself.
Yes, 100%.
And then you were there to help release that, but you were also there as like a great witness.
Yeah, it's like creating a container to hold the space for that, is how I would describe it. For when someone's really ready to change and they're ready to step forward, I'm like, yes, I can hold the space. I can create the specific container that we need to move forward in this way. Let's do it. But yeah, you were actually pretty spot on. So the first half of the life activation is energy rebalancing. So rebalancing a bunch of your systems, because again, the science people might whatever, but your energy body, for lack of better words, your energy system is as complex as your physical body. So like your physical body, I don't know if it's 92 or 100 something minerals and vitamins that you need to run, and there's all these organs and there's blood vessels, but your energy system is that complex. So I do a rebalancing of a bunch of the different structures of your energy system. And then I do what's called the actual activation, the life activation, which is putting the light in. And that opens more potential for someone to really connect to their true self. Who am I? Really, underneath it all, underneath my habits that I might not like, underneath the thoughts I might not like, whatever. Who am actual I? And what am I passionate about, and what am I here on this planet to do? What's my purpose?
Well, I know you're a very purpose-driven person. And I am as well. My purpose is to define what a great future would be for all of humanity, and then also define what are the actions that it takes to get there.
I love that purpose. That's amazing.
And your purpose, I don't want to put words in your mouth. How would you define it to somebody?
I mean, really simple words is to help people heal. And to, like I just said, hold the container for healing and progression in people's lives. Another aspect of my purpose is to bring more joy into the world, into my life, into other people's lives, on the planet, just increase joy. I love dance. That's one of the things that brings me joy. And I try to, when I go to dance, I love to contra dance, which is a really weird, nerdy hobby that's super fun. But people people make eye contact in Contra and they smile, and I try to beam as much light at people as I can when I'm dancing with them in Contra. And you move down the set, so you get to really dance with a lot of different people. So I'm thinking about that and different ways. And it's kind of like we were talking about earlier, even just smiling at the cashier at the gas station, that lights something up in someone, and then they might smile at somebody else. And there might be 20 smiles that you don't even know about after you do that. But so yeah, helping people heal, creating the container for healing, bringing more joy. The other thing that's coming is just elevating the experience of being on Earth, being in a human body, having this physical, beautiful experience that we're having. It's like, how can I elevate that experience for people and myself?
As spiritual beings who are somehow just contained within a physical reality, yeah, I believe what you are 100%. For those of you who are listening in or watching, I definitely want you to go to the show notes and look at Julie's website. We're going to ask you for that at the end, but I'm also putting it in the show notes. And find her website and realize how much joy is there. I mean, look at all the pictures of her and get a sense of what she's bringing into this world, because it is phenomenal. Just seeing you smile on your website, it makes, for me at least, it makes me want to know you better and to find out more about how I can get in contact with you so that you can lift me up and so I can introduce more people to you.
Aw, thank you, Michael.
Yeah. Now, let's dive into one of the big purposes of this show, which, like I said, is defining what the future is. So go with me on a little thought experiment.
Definitely.
We're going to climb into our time machine. We go forward 100 years. We step out in the year 2125. So Julie Goldberg, we are now in 2125. Anybody that we know is already gone.
Yeah.
It's all our descendants. It's all of those younger people who are now old. What are you looking around for to figure out if we did all the things right so that the future of 2125 is awesome?
Yeah, I was thinking about this beforehand, and the first thing I would look for is a sense of peace in people's eyes. So the moment we step off the ship, let's say we're in Durham or a town, I would look and see, is there peace in people's eyes? And then I would look around and see, is there trash on the ground? Which is a little thing, but like, is this city or town clean? Do people care? Are they upkeeping it? Is the community working together to have a beautiful space? That's the second thing I would look for. Is there unity and working together to have a beautiful space? What does this place look like? Do they value beauty here? That's the second thing I'd look for. And then I think in talking to people, I would want to see, are they respectful? Are they kind? Are they making eye contact? What do these people feel like when I speak to them? Do they smile? And yeah, I'm just trying to think, is there anything else? Those are the first three things I think I would look for, is like, is there peace in their eyes? How do they upkeep their community? And what do they feel like to talk to? And how are they communicating and expressing? And I think that if we got to know them better, something that I would look for is, how do they communicate, especially when there's conflict? Do they have good conflict resolution skills? Are they able to resolve conflict respectfully and peacefully? How do they treat each other in those ways? And what kind of communication skills have we given them and have they passed on? Yeah. And what else? Yeah, I think those are the biggest things I'd look for.
So there's warmth in the eyes of the people in the future, and a sense of peace and calm, and they care enough about what's around them that they are caretakers. I love all of that.
And they have good conflict resolution skills, and they treat each other with kindness and respect, and they smile.
Okay, so now here's the $1 million question. If we're going to get there, and I said, oh, we did all the right things, what are those things? What's going to get us there?
Yeah. Well, let's think about this. This is a slight sidebar, but it's related. I was thinking about, there's a lot of crazy things happening in the world right now. However, I do think we're moving in that direction, despite all of that. And if people from the 1500s came and saw what we have now, I think they'd be amazed.
Yeah.
If they saw how relatively peaceful we are compared to what they were living in, they would be amazed. They saw the advancements we've made in health, in how we transport ourselves places. They would just be like, oh my gosh, you guys have so many resources. You are not worried about starving for the most part. I mean, some people are, but not compared to back then. So I think we actually are going in that direction. But I think what we would do now to keep ourselves going there is to really connect with people's hearts. Connect with people's hearts. Bring empathy to all of our interactions and teach empathy to our kids. Our kids being the kids, even if you don't have I don't have biological kids yet, but teach the kids kindness and empathy and communication skills. They need skills. How do you communicate what you're feeling and where you're coming from in a respectful, kind way? And how do you listen to where someone else is at and what they're feeling in a kind of respectful way? How do you resolve conflict in a way that is mutually beneficial, where nobody needs to be codependent or give up their needs? How can you relate honoring self while also honoring others and honoring the collective? I think that's going to be a huge piece, is if we can teach the kids that and they can teach their kids that, and we give them that inheritance, that emotional inheritance, we would see the result of that in 100 years. Also teaching them resilience is a big one. How to be resilient as the world changes rapidly. And how to know yourself, as we've been talking about. How do you know yourself, and how do you connect to your purpose and then live that purpose? I think if we do all of that, then we would see a really beautiful world in 100 years.
Easy peasy.
No big deal.
Well, an awful lot of what you mentioned is centered in self-knowledge. So much of it is. I mean, knowing what your purpose is, knowing what it feels like to be treated a certain way, and therefore how you should be treating others if you want them to feel good and feel valued. And
yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
And I think dignity is a big piece of that. Like, I am the holy divine being with dignity, and I treat you like you are a holy divine being with dignity.
Well, I right back to the very beginning of this conversation, you and I both fall a little bit in love with everybody that we meet, right?
Absolutely. I love that you just said that, because I was like, I do that too.
Yeah.
I've never Englished it that way before, but
yeah. Well, I mean, some people are not receptive to it, and so it only goes so far and then falls, right? But with the right other person, you can just connect very quickly, and it's a really authentic, genuine, loving connection right from the start. And so, yeah, I'm glad to have a fellow traveler on that particular journey.
Totally.
Yeah. So, tell everybody, what is the next big thing that you're working on, and how can people get involved to support you?
Ooh, the next big thing I'm working on. I would love to be on more podcasts. I eventually would like to have a podcast, and I think I'd like to start that process by being on other people's podcasts.
Sure.
So I'm just going to throw that out into the ethers, that's something I'd like to do more of, especially these kind of podcasts that are about such important topics about how do we move the world forward, and how do we want to be treating each other and showing up, and about passion and purpose and all of that. Like, love that stuff. So if you have a podcast about those things, I would love to talk to you about it. Yeah. Or relationships or energy work, all of those things. I have my practice here in Durham, North Carolina, but I also see clients online for inner child healing, and there's a couple of energy healings I can do online. They're mostly in person, but I would like to grow the online side of things more and have more clients around the world. I think it's exciting to work with people all over the place. And somewhere down the line, I'm going to create more programs so that people can kind of, if they want to do, let's say just like a piece of the inner child healing, or they want to go a little slower, there would be programs. So they could maybe purchase a program and work on that for a little bit, and then go a little deeper. So I want to have like a library of programs. So that's coming down the pike at some point.
That's great. All right. And so tell everybody, what is your website? Do you like being contacted through Instagram or LinkedIn? How can people reach you?
Yeah, my website is trianglelightcenter.com, which I think is going to be written in the show notes.
Hmm.
But triangle, like the shape, lightcenter.com. And there's a contact me easy button that you can hit there. I will also get back to you. I don't post a ton on Instagram, but I will get back to people pretty quick if they message me there.
Okay.
So I'm at Julie_Goldberg_.
Okay.
And then LinkedIn, I'm a little bit less quick to respond on that, but you can get in touch with me through email. That's a super simple way.
Awesome.
Yeah, juliecandice@gmail.com.
It's wonderful. That's great. Before I let you go, there are a couple of things that we always provide for our audiences. One of which is kindness practices. What are the different things that you do to stay kind, especially when it's really, really hard? You've had a bad day, you feel drained. What are the things you do to kind of re-energize and stay kind?
Yeah, there's a lot, actually. There's a lot that goes into maintaining my energy and keeping myself in a good space that way. But one simple thing I can do in the moment, and this is going to sound maybe stupid, but it actually works, is to take a breath. Like if someone is being mean or rude or off the wall, and I feel that first maybe impulse to react, breathe. Recenter myself, center in my values, then respond. So I give myself space between the initial impulse to react and being able to have a choice to respond. And that's for people who are nervous system nerds, it gives your nervous system a second to recalibrate a little bit so that you can choose your next step. So that's more of like an in the moment thing. And then I'm a sensitive person. So sometimes if something happens with somebody, I'll feel thrown off. A good thing that I like to do is to contact somebody like you, who I know has the most positive intent, and reconnect with that kindness and maybe tell you what happened, and knowing that you can still see that person in a good light, and just kind of reminding like, wow, yeah, a lot of people are in pain. Okay. And I'm with somebody who loves me and I can come back into that love now. So having a person or two or three in your back pocket that you can connect with if you do feel thrown off center like that. And then I just try to take good care of myself. So I exercise, I eat well, I meditate, I do energetic practices to keep myself in a good space. And I find when I do that self-care, my nervous system is much more regulated. I have a lot more bandwidth. And I'm good. I've taken care of myself. I put my own oxygen mask on first. Right. Now I can assist others.
Right. Wonderful. Yeah. And you've already mentioned at least one hobby, contra dancing as being one of those great ways of staying inspired, right? And finding joy. But tell us, are there other things that you do to like, oh man, I'm so happy to be alive? What are those?
Yeah. Well, I really love dance. Contra dance is one style that I do, but my BA is in dance. I went to University of Oregon for dance. So I also do blues dancing. I do dance improv. I sometimes still take modern technique classes. So I dance a fair amount. I take Zumba. I love Zumba.
Okay.
Find that environment really inspiring. I also lift weights. I really like to lift weights, and I do yoga. I like to go on walks. I'm a pretty active person in those ways. And then I really love my studies in the mystery school. I go take classes a couple times a year and just expand my knowledge, be with my spiritual family and see my friends. Love to do that.
Yeah.
And nature, like I'm just doing some very minimal gardening, but just trying to grow some tomatoes and some kale and some flowers, some mint, things like that. But just even that little connection with the earth. I have a few garden boxes outside of my apartment. I find that inspiring, connecting with nature. I like to swim in natural bodies of water when it's warm enough. So river, we have the Eno River Quarry here in Durham, which is a beautiful space to swim, and some lakes. Love the ocean, grew up near the ocean. Yeah.
It's wonderful. You, out of all the people that I know, you are one of the most dedicated to finding joy and spreading joy. And so,
thank you.
Yeah, so I always love being around you and having the time to learn from you and just celebrate life with you. So
I love celebrating life, and I love being around other people who love celebrating life.
Wonderful. Well, yeah. No, it's been such a joy having you on the program. Any last words of wisdom before we adjourn?
I think I just want to tell people that they're beautiful.
Uh-huh.
Just like you're beautiful. All of you. Every last one of you is beautiful.
I love it. Well,
Yeah.
if you've been taking notes this whole time, please write that down because Julie means it, and you are beautiful. So, Julie Goldberg, what a delight, what a pleasure, what a blessing to have you here. So, thank you for being on Our Future is Kind.
Thank you so much for inviting me. It's been great.
This episode's Kindness Challenge. When you encounter someone who triggers a negative reaction in you, pause and take a deep breath before responding. Center yourself in your core values of kindness and compassion. Then choose your response intentionally rather than reacting impulsively. Seek to find one good quality in the other person, even if they seem difficult, and silently wish them well. Afterward, reconnect with someone in your life who radiates positive intent. This support will help you stay grounded and kind, even on challenging days. Want to stay inspired and do more kind things in the world? Stay inspired by regularly engaging in activities that nurture your body, mind, and spirit. Just like Julie does, maybe take up dance. Consider exploring books like The Untethered Soul by Michael Singer or Radical Compassion by Tara Brach to deepen your understanding of kindness and presence. Participate in joyful movement like yoga or walking in nature to reconnect with your inner light. Cultivate a circle of supportive people you can reach out to when you feel off balance. Finally, seek out spiritual or community groups that encourage growth, learning, and connection. Thanks again for listening to Our Future is Kind podcast, a podcast in search of a kinder future. Go out there and do something kind.